Ladies and gentlemen, let me have your attention. The kitchen is closed. Come on in. Well, I guess the first thing to say is Happy New Year. Welcome, everyone. We're having some technical problems, so our meeting may be a little shorter than anticipated. Is that okay? You don't care if we run a little short, right? As long as we don't want. Okay. Let's start our evening with, indeed, a pledge of allegiance. And Dr. Ray Minion, yes, trustee, come on up, sir, please. And then Jay Sad, will you come up to the Texas?
Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jay, just a second. First of all, I want to be sure to introduce you. You're trustee of Collin College.
Yes, sir.
And this is your first term?
That's correct. I'm just finishing my first term.
And you're running again?
That's correct.
For the second term?
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jay, come up. Jay, what are you famous for before everybody? Oh, no, Jay. He's a great golfer.
Wait a minute.
Three kids in college right now.
And you have announced to be running for trustee
For
Collin College.
Collin College trustee, and it's position 4.
Right. Will you lead us into Texas?
Yes. Next slide. Ready?
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Jay.
Now the Collin
No.
County flag.
Okay. Our very distinguished Judge Mark Rush, will you come up and lead us in the invocation? Now, Judge, everybody knows you, or a lot of us know you well. How many years have you served on the bench?
18 in the 401st, 4 in county court, 4 before that. So a total of 22.
Very good. Thank you for your service. Will you please lead us in an invocation?
I'm going to apologize first because I'm Roman Catholic. We're real good at certain prayers. So forgive me if I am not as eloquent as our usual prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord of all, we thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, the opportunity to live in this nation, for the opportunity to gather this evening as free people and to discuss issues and ideas that we are passionate about, although we may not always agree. In your mercy, Lord, bless us all. Bless our leaders of all parties. At the national and state level, give them wisdom and patience. And please remind them who they work for. Bless all of us here. Keep us safe. Watch over our members in the service. Keep them safe. And may they serve with honor and distinction. We thank you for every opportunity that you have given us to serve. And may we continue to do so. And we ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, that's pretty good for a Catholic boy, wasn't it?
3 Hail Marys, 2 Our Fathers.
Okay. Who are we? John, you want to answer that? We're the traditional
We are the
Republicans.
traditional Republicans.
All right.
Absolutely correct.
And how long have we been around?
We've been around for over 50 years.
Where's Jerry Madden? Jerry, when were you president?
1973 and 1984.
Jerry Yancey, is that correct? Did he get it correct?
He did.
When were you president?
1978.
1978. Anybody prior to that? Okay, did I pick the right ones? Okay. Thank you guys, all right? Now, are we gonna be able to pull it up, Professor, on the Texas website?
Can't get to your network.
We can get it, all right. How the heck am I gonna?
I'll talk.
Yeah, Jerry, come on up. Jerry's gonna give us a briefing each meeting on the state legislature. And Jerry, how many years did you serve?
20.
20 years. Jerry has a distinction of having more bills to the legislature than most people can remember. He was very effective working on solutions. And he's a hell of a golfer too.
You almost tripped on that one.
Yeah, I did.
I'm a hell of a golfer is a good way to describe it. Hellish is how I play. Guys, okay, Richard asked me to talk about the legislative session and what to do. So I'm going to talk first of all how you can check on it. There's a couple of websites. Okay, one for the House and one for the Senate. www.house.state.tx.us. That's the House website. Senate, it replaces the House, the word House with the word Senate. So real ingenious. Okay, you can go up on that website and you can find out just about anything. You can find out about your members. You can find out about legislation, bills that are there. You can find out about the calendars, what's going on, what's on the calendar for each of the legislative bodies at that day, or ones that they have posted in about a day forward. You can find out all the bills that have been filed. Now, rules of the House and rules of the Senate. First of all, not all bills are filed yet. Bills for the legislature, what they start with, don't have to be filed until at least 20th of March this year. They have to be here. Some of the bills will not be filed until about the 20th of March. And even then, you won't really know what's in all some of them. Now, many of them you will. Many of them are very straightforward, small, understandable bills, and some of them are major sweeping pieces of legislation. What's going to be big on their agendas this year? First of all, you have a new speaker. His name is Dennis Bonner. I served with Dennis for about 10 of those 20 years. He was the youngest member of the House when he first came in. He's a bright young man who's grown with the job and grown into what I think will be a pretty darn good speaker. But you never know. You don't know how things will go forward. I can tell you he's at his most popular now. He was selected unanimously by the Texas House of Representatives, which doesn't happen a lot. There's always one or two that sit back. In fact, I think there were 3 that are open seats that weren't, so he didn't have any people there for him, but I think he got like 147 votes. That's a pretty good indication that at least he has their support now. Now, somewhere about the end of this month, or the first of next month, he will announce committee chairman, and he will announce committee members. At which stage he passed his most popular appointments on the downtrend, because somebody's going to be unhappy. Many will be happy, and some will not be as happy as others. Right? So, he may have talked about something with, one of the representatives, and they thought, boy, I'm going to be the new chair of, Pickett. And then in fact, the chair of something other than Pickett, and they didn't really want that. That happens. That happened to me. I told the speaker I didn't need to be chairman the first time, so he gave me 3 committees. He gave me public education, state affairs, and calendar. Now, that's pretty good stuff, so I couldn't complain about that. But the next time around, I told him I wanted to be chairman, and he gave me corrections. And I said under my breath, oh God, why me? What happened to me? And it turned out to be the greatest blessing of my life.
Absolutely.
Because we got to do a lot of fantastic things that changed the correction system, not only here in Texas, but led to the changes that they passed this last month in the U.S. Congress called the First Chance Act. Those are the things that we did, many of them we did in Texas, particularly those things that had to do with rehabilitation and the reentry programs and how they changed them. We did that first. We were the first ones to take that on back in 2007. So that's how you get things done. Okay, what's going to happen in this legislature? Well, there's 2 major things that the governor and the speaker and the lieutenant governor have all said. Okay, one of those is property tax reform, and the other one is school finance. Good thing, guys. They actually go together. One of them's funded by the other. Okay, and the other good thing, they have a lot of money this year. More money than they've had in a while. Revenues are up, the oil fields are doing magnificent. Yeah. And our revenues that are coming in off the oil fields are extremely good. They've got about $9 billion more in the estimate than what they had. Now, the House bill has put almost all of that in public ad. Right? Which, now how they go about funding it, what happens then, and what they have in property tax reform, just watch the details. They'll start coming out before long, and some details will be there. I'll guarantee it, between now and the end of May, they will change. They will be changed, there will be debates, there will be agreements and disagreements between the House and the Senate. And the governor is in a strong position, but not as strong as he was a year ago. And the reason for that is not because of the election he won, it's because he's now a lame duck. Now he's got 4 years to serve before he's done, but he's no longer eligible to run for re-election, and that means he will have it a little harder also. But he's still the most powerful player probably of the three. The three being him and the lieutenant governor and speaker. Lieutenant governor did something that I thought was real strange. He has not posted his committees yet. Lieutenant governor almost always posts his committees, sometimes even before they start the session. They've done it. He didn't do it this time. He's doing it next week. Now, why he's doing that, don't ask me. I don't know. He's probably got some people he's trying to balance, because he's got a little bit different makeup to the Senate. There's a couple fewer Republicans in the Senate, like there are several fewer House members that are Republicans. So we have smaller majorities, but we have pretty solid majorities in both houses. So we should expect some pretty good things to happen, but it's not going to be quite as easy as it was 2 years ago or 4 years ago when we had even larger majorities. So keep your eyes on them. Go to those websites, take a good look, and if you follow it, you want, you can pull up any issue you want. You can pull up any legislator you want, check what they're filing, what they're passing, what they're not passing, and see what they've got. Yeah.
Is Robin Hood likely to be changed?
When they do school finance changes, there'll be some adjustment. Will it be eliminated? No. Will it be changed? It could be. There could be some adjustment too. I don't know. keep an eye on it. What?
And Jerry will be here next month to give us another update. Now, I wanted this on the screen, and this is important. Everyone's representative, whether it's Shaheen, whether it's Jeff Leach, Candy Noble, you go pull up their website. This is a state website. Every bill that they authorized, sponsored, or participate in is listed. Every committee that they serve on is listed. So you can be well informed. There's all the information about their district, okay, the demographics of the district. But this is an educational piece where you can follow your legislature and see how he's accomplished.
And there's an identical page on the Senate for your state senator.
And so Angela Paxton, she's there. But this is a good way to know. So when you run into them, John, you can say, oh, I understand, Jeff, you got that highway renamed for who? You know, it's something that's real important, all right?
Actually, it's pretty important for some people. And they name it for the officer, and you know.
You'd be amazed at some of the bills before that they get passed, really.
Actually, those are some of the easier ones, by the way, guys. It's not a very easy bill to name a highway or name something is.
Or recognize a personality in your district, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Or to recognize somebody in your city.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bud.
Okay.
One of the primary functions of our club is what? Education, to keep us informed. We are not a PAC. We do not endorse anyone. Okay? We're volunteers to work with any candidate on their on different campaigns. Correct? Okay. So what come back? What is our primary function? It is education. This evening, Dr. McConachie, did I pronounce it correctly? All right. Professor of Political Science at Collin College is going to.
That's the second time he's done that.
Yeah, I know. Watch that. I'm a senior citizen. It's going to be some people over there. Okay? It's going to explain to us and enlighten us, sir. Will you come forward and Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I hate to see you suing the party, the county party.
Especially when we don't have any money.
Well, I thank you for having me back. I came sometime last year, as I remember, last spring, I believe
Yes.
it was, and
Now, let me, interrupt. Do we need this light turned off for your presentation? This
not
roll?
necessarily, unless the people think they do.
Hit it and see.
It might be a little
Preferred.
Let me tag on to what Representative Madden said. There is an easy way to get to the legislative website that I teach my students. Just go to your search engine of choice, Google, Bing, put in Texas Legislature Online, or TLO, and it's because nobody can remember house.texas.gov, so. Well, midterm elections have been a fond thing for me because my doctoral dissertation at the University of Missouri, more years ago than I care to talk about, dealt with presidential campaign in midterm elections from 1962 to 1982. And what I explored was, did the president appearing for a candidate in his party help that candidate win? And there was a slight correlation, but it wasn't statistically significant, so that's why there's no book. Presidents still believe that, but everybody, I think, knows. Am I too far? Oh, too far.
I can run the slides.
Okay,
if
yeah,
you-
you'll punch the button to advance it.
Let me see here.
Everybody knows in both parties what we political right? What we call the midterm phenomenon. That the president's party is going to lose seats in the midterm congressional elections. And generally that seat loss is much worse in the House than the Senate. And this goes from 1934 to nearly last year. And you can see, with just a couple of exceptions, Clinton and Bush were the only two in this group, maybe one other, that gained seats. But everybody else loses. And on an average, it's about 30 seats, give or take a little bit. And if you go back to the Civil War, it's like you can count the number of times the president's party hasn't lost seats in the House on the fingers of one hand. The Senate is not as great because you get situations like last year and next year where one party's defending the lion's share of the seats and you throw in the incumbency factor. But everybody knows going in that the president's party is going to lose seats. Why? The two most common reasons are it's a referendum on the president, either pro or con. If the president's doing well in his approval ratings, the seat loss is less. If the president's not doing well, the seat loss is greater. 74 is a good example of that. And then the economy. If the economy's not doing well, like 74, you got an unpopular president after Watergate, well, you can see Ford and the Republicans lost 48 seats and they were already the minority party in 74. Those are the two, typical reasons. So as we started 2018, there were great expectations on the Democrats' side, great hopes that there was going to be a blue wave, like 2010 for the Republicans or 24, the red wave. There's going to be that. Well, that didn't happen. It came out, as I say, kind of the actual loss for last year in the House is about 41 seats. Go ahead and hit the next slide, please. And hit the button again. There's a footnote. One seat in North Carolina remains unsettled. So Democrats it may be 40, it may be 42, and the Republicans actually gained 2 seats in the Senate, which was, from a Republican standpoint, a win. And as I told the classes when we discussed this last fall, I said, in a lot of ways, the midterms were a win-win for both parties. Yes, it did fit the pattern that the Democrats regained control of the House, the Republicans lost control, but it wasn't the dreaded blue wave where the Democrats got to both houses, and so you had fully divided government instead of partially divided government as we have now. So what do we know about what happened? Go ahead and advance it. What exceeded expectations, next one, was the voter turnout. An incredibly high turnout for a midterm election, 50.1%. Normally we expect about 40. This was the highest turnout since 1966. So in this respect, it exceeded expectations. So what drove this turnout? Well, we'll get to that. And that contrast, we had a pretty good turnout in 2010, 41%, slightly above. Okay, now what drove it was before Trump, we had some competitive races in the states, like here in Texas. We had a competitive U.S. Senate race. I don't think Ted Cruz envisioned he was going to be in the fight of his life. And he was. You can hit it again. And there were competitive races throughout the country. And if you hit the next one, that's where Trump will come up. Both his lovers and his haters came out to vote in the election. So yes, it is fair to say that Trump helped contribute to this large turnout. So how did the people vote? What did the exit polls say? And we won't have good final polling data until February or March when everything gets sorted out. So let's go on to the next slide, please. We'll start with the typical voting patterns. I think genders first, and no surprise, women voted Democrat, men voted Republican, so we had an 8-point gender gap. That's a little less than the presidential election when it was more like 13 points, but this gender gap has been persistent since 1980, that women vote for Democrats more than Republicans. Okay, next. Age. If you're a young person under, 29 there, 18 to 29, heavily Democrat, 30 to 44, also Democrat. But here's the interesting thing, at least in the midterm, the older group split 50-50. Now, we used to teach that the 65 plus were reliably Republican voters. That's changing a little bit. That's changing. That's where the battleground is. Now, the other thing is, what do we know about those young people, the millennials? They don't turn out. They evidently love to register, but there's a difference between registering to vote and actually going to the polls and voting. And I don't know that the media always picks that up. Okay, race. White was 54% Republican, non-white was 76% Democrat. I didn't want to get too statistical, but still about a third of the Latino vote went for the Republicans. That's something some of my political science colleagues, some of the national media, Trump in some ways shouldn't be getting a third of the Hispanic vote or Latino. I don't know where it's Hispanic or Latino anymore today. I ask my students and they don't give me any direction either. Or Latino, or what is it? Latinx is now the new cool term, Latinx. But it's really intriguing because there is some overlap in the values of the traditional Latino community because of the Catholic faith and the traditional Republican Party. And that's why you can't, yes, most Latinos do support the Democrat Party, but not at the rate African Americans do, which is 90+%. Education, we're really beginning to see a divide between college graduates going to the Democrat Party. Non-college graduates, or those with some college, are splitting 50-50 or 49-49. And again, the turnout figures differ. The higher your at each break in the education level, it increases the chances that you will turn out to vote. So those that graduate from Collin with their associate's degrees or certificates, they'll vote at a higher rate than a high school graduate. A bachelor degree person will vote at a higher rate than some college person. And somebody like me that has 2 masters and PhD, if there's an election, I usually show up. And so that's there. This was interesting. The 2016 presidential voters, they stuck with their party. Clinton voters voted 94% Democrat. Trump voters voted 91% Republican. We'll get to the significance of that in a minute, but if you go back in time, you wouldn't have seen percentages that high. You would have seen a lot more crossover voting. crossover voting is going the way of the dinosaur. So those were some of the predominant voting patterns. You can go to Pew, CNN, USA Today, and you can look in more detail. Okay, let's go on, so see what this means here. So what do we make of all this? Partisan polarization and nationalized elections are the norm, according to Alan Abramowitz of the University of Virginia. He's a well-respected political scientist commentator that I have found to be reliable. I believe we're more partisan polarized than any time in my lifetime. And I was born in 1956. And there's an interesting thing maybe we'll get to later, but the reason we're in, what, day 26 of a shutdown and they're not talking is, go back and look at that last slide. How many of the voters voted for the same way they voted 2 years ago? 9 out of 10 did. Okay, next point. The middle has disappeared. There are very few, where is the Howard Baker, who had the guts to chair and call out Nixon? I'm not even sure I would consider the late Senator McCain a moderate, but at least he was on that track. And moderates did not win last year, particularly in the primaries. Trump was right about that. He defeated some moderates in the primaries. And I think you're going to see next year, you're going to see the Democrats run hard to the progressive side, and you're going to see the Republicans stay in the Trump camp. Now, Trump has not officially announced he's running for re-election. Are you aware of that? And at least two sources that I really trust. One is Larry Sabato, who's in touch with people that I can only dream about. He's not convinced, and if I remember correctly, Trump said in his original campaign he might just serve one term. So you're not going to see a middle ground candidate, I don't think, run or be successful. Okay, let's see what I have now. Divided government continues to be the norm. And basically, we've had periods where it's been unified, like it was 17 and 18, but divided government, at least one house is the other party than the president. That's the norm. Originally, I used to think Americans liked that as kind of a check. Now I think it's traceable to the partisan polarization. Our separation of powers doesn't allow, see, England would never have a shutdown like this because of its parliamentary system. You'd have a majority vote or you'd have a vote of no confidence. Our system lends itself to this stalemate that we're watching ordinary people suffer. Okay? And, whoa. Go back here.
Hey, John.
Neither party.
There you go.
Neither party is attracting new members or convincing members of the other party to join. Basically, you're preaching to the choir. And this, in some ways, goes back to Karl Rove's strategy for Bush's re-election in 2004. Bush won a contested election in 2000 with the help of the U.S. Supreme Court. As I tell the students, he won fair and square in 2004. Won both the popular and the electoral college vote in 2004. How'd he do it? What changed? Rove and the Bush machine turned out more of the same types of people that voted for Bush in 2000 and 2004. And I think that's the norm. The Obama campaign did some of that in 2012. So you're not attracting people, you're seeing people defect like some in Texas did in the early 2000s when the Republicans became ascendant, and suddenly Texas Democrats had a Damascus Road moment and became a Republican after they'd been a Democrat all their lives.
Happened in 1989 to the guy in return.
Yeah. Now, it also happened to a guy that started as a Democrat, an A&M economics professor in the early 80s named Phil Graham.
Yeah.
And Phil Graham did what I think people should do if you have that
conversion. Pardon the biblical reference. I can use that with this audience. If I said that in class, I'd get it. Mr. Vasquez. Phil Gramm resigned and ran again as a Republican and won. And I think that ought to be required. It's fine if you want to change parties, but the people didn't vote for you on that party in that election. It's not right. Dallas County judges did it, whichever way it was. They went from Republican to Democrat, so that really gets my ankles up. But third-party voters that identified as third parties last year, according to one poll I looked at, they did break more for the Democrats, but not enough to, if the Democrats ever learn to turn out to vote like Republicans, because there's more of them out there. Okay, we'll go on now. What else have we got here? The U.S. House districts with the highest education levels are moving left. Now, Collin County would probably be an exception to that. But nationally, think about Austin, Houston, Berkeley, Madison, where's the University of Charlottesville. There'd be some other exceptions like Collin, but for generally, that's true, okay? What about the whitest districts, I think is next, isn't it? Yeah, the whitest U.S. House districts are moving further right, Republican. Next. The key variable besides party is population density. This is why Republicans will fight to the death to preserve the Electoral College. Without the Electoral College, Donald Trump wouldn't be president. People have a hard time understanding because everybody focuses on the national vote total. National vote total is irrelevant. So, population density, okay, I've got several, yeah. Urban areas are solidly Democrat and rural areas solidly Republican. The Texas, I believe it's the Texas Tribune, has a wonderful map of Texas with the Cruz O'Rourke race that you can hover over the county to see the county results. Well, Cruz won probably 150 more counties than O'Rourke did. And he won them by comfortable margins. Problem is, there's a lot of people in those counties. And I don't think anybody will be emulating Beto's strategy of visiting all 254 counties. That's reminiscent of Nixon's promise to visit all 50 states in 1960, which probably impacted his campaigning. So we used to say in Texas politics up until redistricting, up until the one person, one vote case of the 60s, it was the cities against the rural areas. Well, we're kind of going back to it. So where are the battlegrounds? Next. The urban-suburban mix is leaning left. So that would be like Dallas Garland, Dallas Richardson to some degree. But the suburban-rural mix is leaning right. So this is, I try to put some of this up in class and I try to get the students to think, okay, you're a strategist for a Republican candidate. Where are you going to spend your time? And whether by luck or intention, Trump's people focused on the right states in 2016. And Hillary's people did not listen to Bill. If they had, Hillary could have won this election with two other categories. If she listened to her husband, and if Julian Castro had been her vice president. Either one of those variables, I think you get a different outcome. But she didn't listen. And I've also told the classes, I think she was a much better candidate in 2008 than she was in 2016. She was, I don't want to say stale bread, but of course, I say in class, this fight we're having right now is between two 70-year-olds, Pelosi and Trump. I'm ready. I'm 60. I just turned 63 2 weeks ago. I'm ready for younger people. I'm ready for the kids I'm teaching while they're not old enough. But some of them are. Okay, so let's go on, see, and that's my source. That I wanted to identify where I pulled some stuff, okay? So what are we looking at? All right, 2020, if Trump runs for re-election, I'll tell you right now, I've been saying this all last year, it's 50-50 he wins. Jonah Goldberg of the National Review wrote a brilliant column at the end of last year Trump can't win, but the Democrats can lose. And he's exactly right, and I'll get to that. But we need to pay attention to the U.S. House races and the state legislature. Will the Democrats hold control in 2020? Probably, but it's hard to say. Now let's go on. But the real battle is here, the state legislatures. Because who wins that battle controls redistricting, and that controls the U.S. House for the next decade. Except remember, you can redistrict in the middle now. Because of the Texas case.
We did it.
We did it. And so, but if Trump runs and the Democrats nominate an extreme candidate or not what I call a normal candidate, this is going to be the real thing to watch. Now, the Republicans are defending more Senate seats next year, but they have a more favorable defense than the Democrats had last year. So the Senate probably is going to maybe 52, 51, maybe 50-50. And then what else for 2020? Oh, I think this is the point about going over that there are too many Democrat presidential candidates. Dr. Sabato was here speaking to whoever it is that hosts the $45 lunches that I can't afford to go to because I got. But anyway, in December when he was here, he projects 36 Democrats. Right, they're talking about rounds and debates like a basketball tournament. Well, nobody's, if that happens, nobody's gonna come out unscathed, and while I do think it's a little more likely Trump might draw a primary challenger, I think he defeated him. I can't recall the last time a primary challenger beat an incumbent president. So, but the Democrats really need to get behind somebody quickly, and we'll see if that happens. But it sure ain't looking. I mean, this lady from Hawaii that announced, give me a break. She's not credible. And will there be a primary challenge to Trump if he runs? I don't think Kasich will be able to resist. I think he doesn't have. He was term limited as an Ohio governor, so he doesn't have anything else to do, and he thinks Trump is the great Satan. So I don't think Kasich will be able to resist.
He joined CNN.
Did he?
I think I read that.
Oh, we'll have to resign that. So. But that's kind of the picture on the national. But if you haven't read the Jonah Goldberg article about it, it's something like Trump can't lose, but the Democrats can't win. Trump can't win, but the Democrats can lose. It's a really good article. All right, let's go to Texas.
Before you do,
Yeah.
is part of the reason so many people are announcing, and it was the Republicans that had so many candidates in 16.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me, looking at it, we got people that put their hand up that they're going to run. They're not qualified to walk across the street.
Mm-hmm.
There's no filter that says you want to have certain credentials
Mm-hmm.
before you even think about being president.
Well, what prior to President Obama, what was the #1 stepping stone to the presidency?
Being a governor.
Governor or vice president?
Yeah, governor, yeah.
Kennedy was the most recent senator prior to President Obama. And I think President Obama made a good case why senators don't always make great executives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he opened the door. And you saw a lot of non-traditional candidates up in the Trump, Carly Fiorina, Parson. You saw a lot of, now at least so far on the Democrat side, they're all elected or retired. You know, the first Democrat to announce was John Delaney of Maryland, who announced, like, no chance. This lady from Hawaii, no chance. Now, Gillibrand, Warren, and Castro, at least they have experience.
I think they said that about Donald Trump, though.
Oh, I did, yeah. Yeah, my wife loves to throw it in my face. You said he didn't stand a chance. And I said, well, he was the type of candidate I was intrigued about, but I think I'd rather have an experienced public servant.
Wouldn't that be a great strategy, though, for the Republicans to scope out the candidate that has the least chance
Yeah?
and do what Harry Reid did in Nevada to the Republican Party, scope out the Republican with the least chance to beat him and throw support behind him and get him to be his candidate in the primaries. And if we could do that, then that'd be an easy win.
Well, it may be an easy win either way. Well, in Texas, my question is, should the Republicans be worried? Because the media thinks that, you know, all right, let's take a look at that.
election.
Let's take a look at the next slide.
Get there.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, come on.
We're worried.
Well-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
There we go.
Oh, all right,
Blank one.
there.
There we go. Okay.
Well, love him, hate him, like him, regard him, this man did have an impact on Texas politics.
Right.
His biggest handicap, as I told my classes, no one from El Paso has ever won a statewide office. You know why? Because people in El Paso relate as much to Phoenix as they do Dallas or Houston.
Yeah, that's good.
And he was young, he was fresh, he was exciting, he had all the, you know, all the charisma and stuff, but he had to run into our governor, the most popular politician in the state. And even as close as Beto ran against Ted Cruz, he still got less votes than the lowest statewide elected Republican. Even Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, I don't know what you all think about Mr. Miller. I try to keep my thoughts to myself. Even Sid Miller outpolled O'Rourke. That was when I looked that up. But O'Rourke had an impact. All right, Texas had a record voter turnout for a midterm. 15 million registered, yet only 8+ million voted. As I asked my classes, where are the other 7 million? We had huge voter registration, but they didn't vote. They didn't show up. Would that have made a difference? Maybe.
Why is
But-
that?
What?
Why is that? Why do we?
Because people will register to vote to get rid of the person asking them, because it's socially acceptable. I have students that when I said that in class. And by the way, no professor can offer extra credit for voting. That's a violation of Texas law. It's first-degree felony. It's considered an inducement to voting. Be unfair to international students. And no professor can offer extra credit for registering to vote. And if you hear of one, let me know. I'll report them. But I tell you, can I get extra credit for voting? No, I don't want to go to jail. It was the sit-down. We had the 6th largest increase among the states over 2014 in voter turnout. Usually in Texas, we're down in the 40s. So Texans did good. Republicans won all statewide elected offices, but by smaller margins. That was Beto's impact. And Collin College was his impact, and there's one or two others. The one that surprised me was the woman that ran against Will Hurd in that very, very close race. And that was a race, from what I read, that if you lived in that district, that huge district from San Antonio to El Paso, you really had two good choices. And we need more races like that. A few notable Democrat gains in the U.S. House and the Texas legislature. Dallas County did that. The Latino vote, Abbott's share declined by 9% from 2014, probably because of identity voting for Sheriff Valdez. First day of fall class in Texas politics, I made some comment about Sheriff Valdez was not a serious candidate. And a student said, "Can you back that up?" And after 5 minutes, she said, "Okay." No serious Democrat wanted to run against Greg Abbott. They got turned down by both Castro brothers. O'Rourke had already jumped in the Senate race. An intriguing choice, although nobody knows him outside of this area, would have been, what's his name? First name's Michael, the president of Collin College would have been an interesting choice. But, you know, Abbott was, there was no, Abbott's more likable than Cruz. There was no compelling reason not to give Abbott a second term. And smart Democrats like the Castro brothers said, "I'm not going to do it." Interestingly, O'Rourke only won 69% of the Latino vote. Democrats from El Paso probably should have won more. We would have expected more. The legislature, right now it's 83 because there are 3 still out there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a significant. Now, when was the last large Democrat presence in the Texas House? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, 2009.
Yeah, it was what, nearly 76, 74?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had one guy had a heart attack with 75, 74.
Yeah. And it wasn't, you know, it hasn't been in some ways that long ago, but the Senate is the same, 19 to 12. And probably a more moderate Texas House, but also probably a little more open to the Freedom Caucus proposals. Now, whether they'll get through is a different question. But Strauss shut them out for the most part. From what I've read about Mr. Bonham, is that how you pronounce it?
Dennis Bonham.
I think there's a chance they'll get some hearings and get to the floor. But whether it'll get into law, I don't know. Greg Abbott's very good at playing close to the vest.
Depends on what they are.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Dan Patrick won with 390,000 fewer votes. I don't know whether anybody but me thought his campaign commercials really sent a strange message. That old truck driving away, and I'm sitting there going, do you know what my students are thinking? They're thinking he's driving back to the 1950s. They don't want to go back to the 1950s. Well, he won, so that's why I'm teaching, and he's lieutenant governor. But I make more money than he does teaching than he does as lieutenant governor. He makes the same thing Representative Madden makes. That just freaks my students out. 2 Tea Party incumbent state senators from DFW lost. O'Rourke became the first Democrat since 1994 to carry Tarrant County in a statewide race. Now that should be a real red flag. Because of the big 6 counties, Tarrant has been the Republican holdout for the last 6 to 8 years. If Tarrant is in the wind, Collin and Denton were pinker rather than solid red. Montgomery remained solid red, but Hayes and Williamson, the counties north and south of Travis, they joined Fort Bend in switching to blue. Hayes and Williamson are suburban. That may be worrisome. So yes, Texas Republicans should be worried. Declining victory margins pretty much across the board. Is there another O'Rourke out there? No, outside of El Paso, I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. Suburban counties and Tarrant County becoming battleground areas. Senator Paxton, Mr. Shaheen, Mr. Wood, they had to work harder than they thought. That's not a bad thing. I actually think Cruz is more likable because he had to work so hard. Democrats, now here's an interesting thing. Democrats split the state appeals courts in Austin, Dallas, and Houston. They now have a majority on 7 of the 14 state appeals. This is the intermediate courts between the trial and the Supremes. So that's interesting. So should they be worried? Nah. Governor Abbott remains the most popular elected official in Texas. I think he's even more popular than Trump. Senator Cornyn will be a much tougher candidate for the Democrats to target in 2020. Senator Cornyn's more likable. And I do not think O'Rourke will challenge him. I attended a talk by a UNT history professor at the Allen Public Library last week on the history of presidential campaigns, and somebody asked him, and he said he sees O'Rourke as the perfect vice presidential candidate. I thought that was pretty good insight. I don't think O'Rourke will be the nominee. Rural counties are still solidly red, but there aren't a lot of people in them. And probably the GOP still holds a majority in both houses in the Texas legislature in 2021, this controlling redistricting. Ever since I came back to teaching from my full-time pastoral career, I've been reading in books, and I've been the contrarian. The Hispanics are going to turn Texas blue in the 2010s, and then Bush tanked the economy, and that slowed immigration. That was his anti-immigration policy, killed the economy. And then we had the hurricanes, and the demographers, and the political scientists, it'll be sometime in the late 2020, you know, and I've been kind of contrarian, but I noticed over the last 2 or 3 years, some other political scientists are coming around to my contrariness. Texas probably will become a two-party competitive state like it was in the late 80s, early 90s as the Republicans ascended, but it's not going to happen in 2021. I don't think a Democrat carries Texas unless something comes up that we do, and things can change. So that's all I have for you.
Question.
Great.
Great.
How important or unimportant is each party getting what they stand for out to the voters?
It's important in reinforcing the voters that that's why you vote for us.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, it's kind of like I teach about interest group endorsements. Unless it's the Klan, you generally like an endorsement, or NRA, you like an endorsement from the interest group. But endorsements don't really convert people, but they serve as a voting cue. So, and party platforms matter. Trump has done what he said he's done, except for the why. Cut taxes. Did he campaign on that?
Right.
Cut regulations. He campaigned on that.
Judge?
Pipeline.
Judges. Obama did too. I'm not asking, this is what students have such a hard time with. I'm not asking whether you're for or against Obamacare. I'm asking, did he say he was going to reform health care in the 2008 campaign?
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah. So, now some of the nuances in the party platform, some of the red meat stuff, like let's put prayer back in school, no. But major stuff, the platforms make a difference, and it reinforces why voters vote for that party. But we're so polarized. If you go back to the 60s and the 70s with the Vietnam War going on, you initially had a majority of Democrats supporting Johnson in the Vietnam War, but you had a significant number joining the Republicans to oppose it, and then it reversed with Nixon. You don't have that anymore today. The party line votes in Congress are 90% Democrat and 90% Republican. Who's going to break this stalemate? Are there 11 or 12 Republican senators that will join with the Democrats? Because in some senses, Trump is right. Congress appropriates the money till he gets a bill.
Yep.
He's not shut. Right now, I place the shutdown at McConnell's feet because he won't bring a bill up to a vote. It should be irrelevant to McConnell what the president's going to do. Vote it, send it, let him veto it. But McConnell likes to stonewall, see Merrick Garland. Yes.
I have a question for you about the liberal conservative divide you mentioned earlier in your
Yes.
presentation, something I'd like to follow. I think the Republican caucus in Congress has been getting steadily more conservative since about 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And the Democrats more progressive since more recently. But one thing I've followed since the 90s is how people self-identify. And it's been a pretty steady number for about 20, 30 years. About 20% liberal, 35% self-identify as conservative, 40 self-identify as moderate, about 5, I don't know, I don't care. But it's still 40% self-identify as moderate. So shouldn't Republicans kind of, we got a larger base of conservatives than they do of progressives. If we just feel assemble as moderates as parties,
that would be helpful, but the moderates, they don't vote at the rate that the extremists do. That's the key. I think you see that clearly. Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick are more comfortable with the new speaker. That at least so far it appears Patrick abandoned some of his social extreme causes like the bathroom bill to focus on the basics of government, education, property tax reform. I think the division is going to be the cities and the school districts are going to rebel at the limit on and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. For years we've said 1/3 Democrat, 1/3 Republican, 1/3 independent, plus or minus the figures like you said. And so it comes down, who can you peel away? If the Democrats, I mean, we had probably, you have to go back maybe to the 1800s to find 2 more personally unlikable candidates in 2016 of the major parties. And if either party had nominated a, quote, normal, whatever you think normal is, and I don't know what it was in 2016, but the lovely Mrs. McConachie allowed, she would have been happy to vote for Cruz, and she did not vote for Trump. She did not vote for Hillary. I won't violate who she voted for, but she said she would have been, she's not a huge Ted Cruz fan, But I think Cruz gets governing. I'm not sure Trump does.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go to Collin County. And Matt Shaheen won by 600 votes. Jeff Leach won by 900 votes. I don't think Beto was running any of that here in Collin
No.
County.
No.
And Paxton, Angela, didn't win by a big percentage. And the LGBT candidates, and there were lots of them, very little flyers advertising. Now, I live in Shaheen's. I got one piece from Sharon Hirsch. It was on an 8.5 by 11 white piece of paper, mimeographed.
Wow.
That's all I got. And Matt, you wouldn't have seen that. And she almost beat him.
That, I think, was Trump. There was a lot of we had some friends that voted for Trump, and the wife said, well, it was an anti-Hillary vote. Well, you ought to be voting for rather than against.
But
But
There was a lot of Facebook dirt.
Yeah.
From her against Matt. Yeah.
But that's the problem with candidates. If the best this country could do was put up Trump and Hillary for president, we're in a lot of
That
trouble.
kind of makes you want to go back to the days where the party leaders did it in smoke-filled rooms. They produced some pretty good candidates.
My question is pretty much the same what Kay is raising with slight different twist. Traditionally, richer the precinct, more votes for the Republicans. Now, in Matt Shaheen's precinct, that was the richest precinct, all the precinct, and he got the most closest win he had, only by a few hundred shares. What went wrong?
I don't know that anything went wrong. I think that's the increased turnout. You had people that didn't vote in the past, and you might see, let's see, Shaheen has to run again next year because he's a representative, right? You might see, I know, and for years I've kind of mocked the Collin County Democrat chair in class. Oh, we're getting closer, and I'm going, yeah, and the Atlanta Falcons believe they would have beaten the Patriots in the Super Bowl a few years ago if there'd been another period. You're still losing. I mean, go back to that slide where I said all Republicans won statewide office. You don't care whether you win by one vote or 10,000.
But the political trend where everybody's gone too far right, I think has an impact. You know, Jeff Leach just resigned his membership in the Freedom Caucus. And he said it's too far right.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think rather than Mr. Shaheen doing something wrong or something like that, I think it's that 46% turnout. You got people coming to the polls that hadn't been there before, that you hadn't had, that whether he as a candidate or Republicans as a party hadn't had to worry about. Now, will that continue in 2 years with Trump? Who knows? I mean,
There's an additional growth in those districts too.
Yes.
Particularly in apartment complexes.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's a younger, more progressive.
In Northwest Plano, there is the Toyota people, and two of those precincts out there are solidly Democrat. Duncan Webb was worried.
All right, Eric?
I was curious do you think there are any reliable reasons for why the suburbs are beginning to turn Democrat and turn away from?
Reliable reasons?
Well, I just didn't know if there were any statistics on either movements throughout the United States, immigration, or
Well, I got a book
people who get through college.
Yeah, I got a book for my birthday called Political Tribes. I haven't had a chance to, it's by the Tiger Mom lady, it's a Yale law professor, and I think it'll be good. It's just not as interesting as the new Tom Clancy novel that I'm reading. But some of it is migration. You have people moving in from California, from other states. And much like the Republicans benefited from that migration of the Rust Belt in the 70s and 80s of people coming from a state like Ohio, where there's a history of competitive parties and rotating parties, and they got to Texas and said, well, you know, I have students that don't believe the Democrats ever dominated Texas, and I just roll my go. I grew up when, to mix a metaphor, if you were a Republican in Texas, you were in the closet. And they just, you know, when we get to that point in political party, and they don't know, you know, they don't know the story of John Tower. And of course, John Tower was a political science professor at Midwestern State, and granted, he probably wouldn't have won if it hadn't been a special election with 14 candidates. But it's a break like that triggers something. You know, Beto was close. I mean, this was close to being a very different talk. If Beto had won, we would be, well, it'd probably be dismissed as a fluke.
More than policy?
Yeah, and that, I just made a discussion board for an online class today about what matters in a president. Again, a Jonah Goldberg column. Is it the character or the policy results? National polling says Republicans care about the policy results and will tolerate, because despite all the media wanting to have a high five over the possibility of impeachment, there is no smoking gun that's equivalent of Nixon's tapes yet, unless Mueller's sitting on something we don't know. And so that's what I tell you, is he going to get it? Probably not. Why would you even waste your time on it? The best chance, if you're, and you all probably aren't of the opinion, but the best chance for the people who oppose Trump to change is November 2020. And that's probably the way it ought to be. It ought to be the people changing.
All right, any other questions?
Assuming your forecast is possibly correct, 50% he decides not to run, who would be the most attractive, viable Republican candidate in your qualified opinion to beat any Democrat?
To beat any Democrat.
I'll throw the name out, Nikki Haley.
Yeah, yeah. Pence to me has just become a silent yes man.
Right.
Normally you would think and of course Pence wants it. I mean, he wants it bad. But, you know, there are people that think Nikki Haley resigned targeting 2024. Haley, I don't think you'd ever get Ted Cruz to be vice president, but that'd be a powerful ticket.
But if Trump were to run and have her as his vice presidential candidate,
That would probably help him. He could overcome, you know, the George H.W. Bush. He didn't think long, but there was some consideration of dropping Quayle. He never should have chosen Quayle. But I know why he did. He was tired of being in Reagan's shadow. He didn't want somebody to overshadow him. Trump can get away with dropping Pence. Now, does Nikki Haley want to play second fiddle?
well, if it's a stepping stone.
But Trump might do what Clinton thought about doing in the summer of '99 or 2000. Trump might resign in 2023, so she'd be an incumbent and get 2 full terms. Remember, who appointed the first woman to the Supreme Court?
Ronald Reagan.
Republican.
Yes.
Why do we assume the first woman president is going to be a Democrat? That's a faulty assumption. It might well be a Republican.
Yeah, Nikki doesn't think that.
Now, yeah. A Democrat that would fit the normal that I'd be interested in see is the former governor of Colorado, who I think was also termed Hickenlooper. That'd be someone if I were a Republican, I would be worried if he could do it.
It could be Biden.
Biden so wants to run, and he should have run 2 years ago. But out of respect for Hillary and his son's death, I think Biden ultimately is going to conclude he's too old. I think he's going to conclude he's too old. I think Elizabeth Warren is going to be branded as Hillary 2.0. This is really sexist, and I'm sorry. She's shrill. She's angry like Hillary in her voice, and that's gonna. I actually thought she was a good director of the Consumer Finance Protection Agency. I'm sorry she left that job. But Gillibrand is a more ideological person in the Hillary mold, and she's more pleasant than Warren.
Kamala.
Who?
Kamala.
Kamala blew it in the Supreme Court hearings. The way she treated, I can't think of the justice's name, Brett. Kavanaugh. The way she treated Kavanaugh, she's kind of a female Obama. Cory Booker was a heck of a mayor. He kind of hurt himself in the hearings. He was a heck of a mayor.
Tough place too.
You know, currently, there's a lot of Democrat talk, particularly on different sites and different pages and all, that are already calling it the B&B ticket, which is the Vice President Biden along with Beto as Vice President. What do you think of that possibility? And
That's
the scenario is that Biden would agree to be one-term
And
president.
Beto would, yeah. That's a good possibility. There's an interesting study. In both parties, 10 out of the last 12 election cycles, the eventual nominee has been one of the top 3 finishers in January of the year before the election. Now, I haven't seen a January, but a December poll was Biden, Sanders, O'Rourke. So if you believe this study, there's an 85% chance the Democrat nominee will be one of those 3. Now, I think 2020 is going to probably be as unusual as 2016. So I have less faith in that. And remember, O'Rourke has not said he's running.
What about Castro?
I've always thought I like him better than Joaquin. Joaquin said something, and what did Joaquin say in a Texas Monthly interview that really turned me off? He trashed George W. Bush. And that really, and I understand why Joaquin wouldn't give up his House seat to run for governor. Why would you? He can serve in the House forever from that district. I mean, I get that. I've always thought Julian was the better of the 2 brothers. I think he presents the right type of Democrat, Stanford, Harvard educated, like a Republican, business friendly, very well regarded as mayor of San Francisco. You don't usually jump from mayor to president. San Antonio, yes.
Just sit by that.
That woke me up. Thank you, Matt. Sir, give me a little token for our appreciation.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay,
You can do that.
very much. Let's give him a second round of applause. We're going to add one just a little bit since our computer's out. But let's go and do this at this time. Let's have all the elected officials and candidates assemble over here. And candidates, you have 1 minute to tell us what you're famous and what you're seeking. So everybody get over here. And as we get them ready, I want to go through a couple of events. This is very important. But Bob, while they're getting ready, why don't you come up?
30 seconds.
You got it. Make it 29.
29. You're all invited. George Flint and I run the Patriot Breakfast Club once a month. The next one is this coming Monday, January 21st, Prestonwood Hills. We review a book. The book will be Hurricane's Eye about George Washington. Then George Flint gives an update on what's happening local and national politics. This is the sponsor committee for the Lincoln Day Dinner, which is coming up now in March. And we can't tell you who the speaker is because George is still working on it. Please come Monday. It's a free complimentary breakfast. Please come. Thank you.
Come on in. Where's the breakfast?
Again, Prestonwood Country Club,
Okay.
6600 Columbine Way in Plano.
And what time?
At 7:15 in the morning, ends at 8:30. Thank you, sir. You bet.
Bob, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
All right, are y'all ready? All right, Jay?
No, it's,
Oh, I've got one.
It's getting moved.
Wait a minute. Lincoln Day's not getting moved. You said Lincoln Day's getting moved?
Yeah, so February to March.
Wait a minute. This event is when?
it's potentially being moved from February to March because of the change in speaker. Yes, sir.
Your event, your breakfast.
No.
You're talking about Lincoln Day's been changed?
Yeah, Lincoln Day, the Lincoln Day dinner tentatively, which is supposed to be in February, is now being moved tentatively to March. Yes, sir.
Now, when did you hear this?
2 days ago from George.
Okay. Conversation today,
Okay.
multiple conversations, I am not aware of that. Okay? So, if you'll confirm that with me, or have George, or Neil, I don't give a dang who.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to confirm it. Our conversations today and yesterday, it has not changed.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't think that hotel is open.
Well, that's a different subject. We'll have a team. We'll have a team, okay? All right. Hey, Sal, will you please come up?
Okay, we've had a lot worse places than that over the years.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, my name is Jay Sad. I'm running for Board of Trustee. The main reason I'm looking to run for it is this will be the first time I'm going to do anything political. So I'm really starting to get engaged. I got 3 kids in college, as I mentioned. The important part of education is this what's keeping Collin community up, is that we have one of the lowest levels of poverty in our market because of the education. Collin College can help prevent that and keep growing our economy. So pro-business, 3 kids in college do better than me to know what's cost of college. So thank you. Appreciate it again, Jay Sapp. Yes. Place 4, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Young lady?
Line's bright. I'm Hope
Turn that
Phillips,
off here. Super.
and I'm representing Connor Barron. He is running for Plano City Council, place 1. He is a young man, but a very solid financial guy who has been on budget committees and understands what's happening with Plano's budget. And he is very much in favor of tax relief. And I would like you to vote for him in May and sign my petition. I have to put him on the ballot because we are still in the process. This is the beginning of the process to get on the city ballot.
Thank you very much. Scott?
My name is Scott Gray. I've met many of you over the last year. I've worked on several campaigns. I currently serve in the auditor's office for the county. I audit most of the offices and spend a lot of time auditing the tax office. So I'm very familiar with their operations. And that's one of the reasons I decided to run, because I know some of the challenges with that office. I've also received 3 certifications from the Texas Association of Collectors here in Texas, pursuing a 4th certification, 25 years of audit experience. So I know the needs of that office and have the experience needed to run that office and bring it into the current needs of what this office needs.
All right, Ms. Scott, let's do a clarification. You're registered as a candidate.
Yes.
And when do you register for office?
The primary is in 13 months, so it'll be the March primary, but the early voting starts in 13 months. So, and the filing is mid-February through middle December of this year.
All right, but you've registered as a candidate for that office.
Yeah, and then we'll open up the ballot to be on the ballot at the end of this year.
All right, thank you, Scott. All right, Doctor?
Good evening, my name is Dr. Raj Menon. I'm the incumbent trustee in place 5 on the Collin College board, and also the treasurer on the board. So people ask me, didn't we just elect you? And yes, I was appointed to fill in a vacancy in 2016. I ran for election in 2017. I was unopposed at that point, but now the term is ended that I was filling in, and I'm running for my first full term, which is 2019 on for 6 years. So Raj Menon for place 5 on the Collin College Board of Trustees. And I want to make a quick mention about legislative priorities for Collin College, because the legislature is in session. And there's a couple of things that, of course, the state portion of the funding is critical, that we want to keep that coming back to Collin College. We also want to make sure that the dual credit program, which has been very successful in Collin County, which encourages all the ISD students to get college credit at a very economical price before they get to college. We want to keep that and support that. And then the third piece is workforce development. As Jay mentioned before me, business and supporting workforce, creating talented workforce is critical for the development of Collin County and to keep up the progress that we have. So those are the 3 things that we're going to push. And I'll be in Austin next 2 weeks from Tuesday, 2 weeks from yesterday, that's right, at the Collin County Community College Days meeting with the legislatures. And you're all welcome to come and join.
Not been a couple of questions. Relay to everybody about the bond.
Yes.
Well, we just cut our bond program.
That's right. Yeah. So we just had a bond election in the last election, which we successfully passed for $600 million, and we're building new campuses. There's 3 phases. There's a whole bunch of campuses going up, but right now the Salina is getting a new campus. Farmersville is getting a new campus. We've just opened a public safety training center in Allen. We're going to the Allen ISD STEAM Center opening later on this week. So yeah, we're growing. I mean, we're one of the few community colleges in the country that's just seeing increase in enrollment, in spite of the fact that we have a great economy. Because normally when the economy is good, community college enrollment goes down. But this is a great sign of, you know, the 80 people moving into North Texas every day. That's really what's keeping it going. And so we are the lowest cost community college of the 50 in the state, and I think we're the second lowest tax rate in the state as well. So
what's the enrollment now?
It's about 55,000, something like that. Yeah.
Question, one
I'd
question.
like to make a comment.
Yes.
My granddaughter just graduated from the University of Arkansas in 3 years
There you go.
because of what she did here in Collin
Exactly.
County.
$2,000 a semester. You know, you can get an education.
Everybody needs to
And
do that.
professors like Dr. McConachie is the reason we're doing so well. So
Pretty good experience.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don. Okay. Sir, come on.
I'm Gary Edwards. I'm your constable, your incumbent constable on the east side of Collin County. Have been for the last 5 years. I've got 43 years experience as a deputy constable, chief, and constable. And look forward to running in 2020 with these other guys, Scott, and the judge, and appreciate your vote.
Thank you, sir. Judge?
Been a while.
Mark Gress,
Yes.
401st District Court. I'm currently the old district judge. I've served a little over 18 years in 401st as the first judge of court 4, County Court 4, 96 to 2000. Prosecuted for 12 and a half years before that. I had an interesting conversation at the polls in March with some Democrats when I wasn't wearing anything that said state district judge. And this is what they told me. This campaign was about waking up the Democrat Party in Collin County and letting them know that they were alive and well. In 20, they want to run every district judge because they did not make inroads in Dallas County until they started picking off district judges. Okay? It would be an interesting study. I don't know why that is, I just know that it is. And there's the old maxim in politics, if you want to control the state house, you got to control the courthouse. That includes guys like me. There's going to be a war. I've already been approached by 2 different lawyers that I know are Democrats asking me to change parties. And I looked at them and I said, excuse me? I said, how long have we known each other? One of them started laughing. What in the history of our relationship would lead you to believe that I have anything in common with Ms. Pelosi and Mr. Schumer?
Kay Baird runs your campaign. That's a pretty.
She sure as hell does it. She would skin me alive.
Amen, brother. Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Find a judge, get involved.
All right. Let's get ready for the Wheel of Fortune and let me go through some announcements. Okay. And I'm going to repeat this, but February the 16th for Lincoln Day, as of today, in conversation and yesterday, and I am sort of involved up to here, but I was not unaware of any change. So I'm going to get on the text message and see about that. But mark your calendar, February the 16th. Number 2, all officers, anyone that wishes for the club to have a table, you need to get with Tim McCard, where the hell is Tim, and you put your name on the list. Okay, he's the treasurer. All right, now this is extremely important, so listen carefully here on this date. But, January the 23rd, that's Wednesday, our club is hosting an event for John Payton. It's an appreciation dinner. It's going to be at Haggard Farm. I'm pleased to announce that former president of Collin College, come on, I haven't seen your name. Mr. Israel. Gary Israel is coming in to be the keynote speaker. So mark your calendar, and again, it is a non-political event. Our club is hosting it. It's a social event, and the donations are by friends of John Payton. And the date, again, is February the 16th. We had this.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, January the 23rd.
There you go.
I had all that on the screen. The Laura got a virus in my computer. He's the operator. He's the operator. Okay. I pushed the wrong dang button evidently. I'm always doing that. Okay. Now this is very important. Also, extremely important. Are you ready for February the 21st? What is February the 21st? Somebody tell me. John Myers, playing with the computer.
A week after.
Our next meeting is February the 21st.
Absolutely.
Are you interested? But Pam Little, State Board of Education, is our speaker. Pam Little is going to be she took Patsy Miller's place. Okay? So she's going to be informing us to what's going on in Austin with the State Board of Education.
Patsy Miller?
Patsy.
You mean Patsy.
Okay, what did I call her?
Patsy.
Oh, you can't hear well. You get your hearing. I'm a Texan.
Oh, are you in trouble, boy?
I know what I said. I'm a Texan.
Oh, Richard, you are so deep in trouble right now.
All right, let's get the Wheel of
Really
Fortune. Let's get the
unpopular.
Wheel of Fortune up here. Who's got all the tickets and who's got the cap? And
Everybody get a ticket?
does everybody have a ticket? Hey, Phyllis, since you're the good-looking lady on the floor, come spin this right. Be our final, Yep. Okay. All right, we'll pick the prize, spin, and we'll pick the prize, and then we'll draw the winner. Hang on to that thing so it doesn't fall off.
You gotta hold the base.
Yeah, wait a minute, I'll help you.
And then spin it.
Spin, Richard?
Yep, please.
Big money, big money.
Yeah, big money, big money, big money. Let's get the number. You're a good spinner. Really well. What is that?
Not that I was gonna win.
Five.
That's right.
Uh-oh. What a way to start.
Bankruptcy?
Bankruptcy.
Does it matter who won then?
How
does that work?
You think about a spin again?
I think so.
That one is January. This one start with a bacon. Boo. Let's spin it again.
Yeah, but
Pull the winner.
Pull the winner. Yeah, right. It doesn't matter.
All right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just pull the
Bring
winner.
those tickets over here. That one five.
It's gonna be five.
Yeah, five.
No?
Nine. Or is it
Oh, wait, it went back to
No,
seven.
it's nine. It's nine. It's still nine. It's still nine.
It is officially 9.
$50 gift card.
All right, $50 gift certificate. All right,
Ticket
come on, dear.
174.
Draw,
That's
baby.
twice as much as bankrupt.
Good man. Only 20?
174.
Oh, you're Florida. No, it's not. I think Jay.
177.
Got the right.
177.
I got it.
Got a winner.
Whoa,
Thank you. Okay. Get his all his contact information, so we know who he is. Okay? That Democrat, and then that treasurer gets your,
I'll give you a away surprise. I'll give it away surprise.
Okay.
At the Collin County.
All right,
We
let's
can
get
take
him.
them whenever we
Let's
don't
give him
want
a
to.
hand there.
Give him a round of applause. Thanks. Now, I want to do something a little creative in closing. Yes.
I just heard back from our executive director, Neil Katz, and he says that the Collin County Lincoln Day dinner is still February 16th.
Until they change.
See, if you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
George doesn't know what he's talking about. That's what George told me.
Well, there's a logic that could change.
Maybe he hadn't told Neil
You don't have a
yet.
speaker.
You know,
You don't have a
Bob, I'm
speaker yet.
joking with
You
you.
don't
I
get
know
one.
that. Richard, come on.
I'm joking with you.
Yeah.
I know. Nothing like effective communication in the Republican Party.
Right.
Okay? All right. Now I want everybody's attention. Everybody make New Year's resolutions. You make some New Year's resolutions. It would have been really nice if they were on the screen. I want to share with you the Collin County Republican Men's Club New Year's resolutions. Listen carefully. Number 1, stop procrastinating. We delay and avoid facing problems instead of searching for a solution. One way to help, join the Collin County Republican Men's Club.
We had two new,
Number 2.
we had two new tonight.
Number 2, develop confidence. Trust your own ability. Take some chances. you become happier. One way to boost your confidence is to join the Collin County Republican Party. Instantly. Okay. Number 3.
You actually I built ours a long time ago, though.
Learn to recognize stress. Our modern lifestyle creates positive and negative stresses. Stress can be handled. Stress can be handled. Join CCRMC. All right, become a leader. You young guys, help others achieve their goals. Share your journey. How? Join CCRMC. All right, volunteer your time. We'll wrap this up. Volunteer your time. Help others in their busy lifestyle. How do you help others? Join the CCRMC.
I think you ought to make a song out of this.
We could do that. You got a guitar, you can sing along.
No, I don't have.
All right, last 2. Learn to be happy. It takes patience to find joy. Don't let problems get you down. How? Join the CCRMC. Last one, you ready for this, fellas? Yep. Develop good habits. Work on your New Year's resolutions until they become a part of your lifestyle. This is true self-improvement. How? Join the CCRMC. All right.
And go practice your golf.
Jerry and I have withdrawal problems. We haven't played golf in 6 weeks, 7 weeks. The weather's been unfriendly. I want to sincerely appreciate everybody. This is a marvelous crowd. And a lot of new faces, so shake some hands and get to know your neighbor. But thank you. We're going to have a wonderful year. What is our goal?
Education.
200 members. Right? 200 members.
How many do we have? Correct.
We have 117 paid members. All right, we're going for 200. Yes, sir?
I think our stretch goal is 200, but we have goal of 150, stretch goal 200.
I don't know what you're saying.
That's unapproved.
I'm
only cited because I sent the email out.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year. We see you next month.
I sent the email out.